is obviously a person who has greater experience than the members of the team. So obviously he's lived through these challenges, having worked with people of everything. But physical meetings are physical meetings, you know. Like,
I have personally been leading teams and working in a remote setting for the past 2 years. And I feel that, I've
I
got
think we are definitely headed towards a very heavily tech dependent world where perhaps we
that
will
where
really.
there is a certain level of professionalism that gets imbibed in you when you go to the office, and there's a certain level of routine that is built up. Especially in the corporate world, what happens is you're not performing that great. Your manager won't speak to you, the HR would, and that
Exactly.
perspective is
That will be there. That will always be there. There will be a top performer, and there will be somebody who will be at the bottom of the list. And the leader would obviously feel great pride in the member of his team who's doing so well.
right. Welcome everybody to our third session for this week's edition. I'm today with Umika Mehra, who has a specialization in mass media communication. She began her professional journey as an advertising copywriter with the Publicis Groupe. She's also worked in the English content team of the famous news app Inshorts. In 2017, she began as a consultant with All India Radio's Yuvani branch for their show Use Time. Now an image consultant and soft skills trainer, Umika works on appearance, behavior, communication needs of her clients. Thank you so much, Umika, for taking out time today and having this session with us.
Thank you so
We're,
much, Arnav. The pleasure's all mine.
we're really glad to have you here with us today. So,
Thank
just to
you.
kick off things, since we're going to be talking about team building, my first question to you is, how do you perceive team building? What do you think this word means to you?
Well, team building, actually, a lot of people tend to confuse team building with team management. So they are two different things, and it's great you started the session with that. Team building is all about bringing people together, people with varying expertise and knowledge, coming together to work towards achieving a common goal, a common task. So you're bringing people together. Team building also includes activities apart from work, just to help the members bond. That is also part of team building. And team building is the initial part of a team coming together. You're just building, you're understanding what the team is about. You're going to understand what your work is about, what your fellow members are about, their personalities, their ideas, their inputs towards the task. So that is like the team just building and coming together. So that's what team building is about. And usually there is a leader who facilitates that. In professional scenarios, for sure, there is.
So, interesting that you mentioned that. Then, my next question to you on that same line would be, since it's about bringing a team together, and since leaders are the people who are generally building that team together, how does any leader, for that matter, prepare themselves for a mix of personalities, people who come from different backgrounds, different cultures, different kind of experiences? How does a leader orient themselves in order to build that team that is individualistically speaking very different from one another?
Well, yes, that's one of, I think, work aside, that's one of the big responsibilities of the leader. The leader is obviously a person who has greater experience than the members of the team. So obviously he's lived through these challenges, having worked with people of, different, say, ethnicities, personalities, and things like such. So he comes from a certain degree of experience, which is why he's the leader. Having said that, definitely there can be challenges which are new to the leader himself. So I think the basis of, the foundation of any team, the basis of beginning any task for a team leader with his members has to be respect. You have to know that here are people who don't know one another, who come from different backgrounds. who have different perspectives and views towards life and varying challenges, varying expertise, very importantly. And it's important that each member is made to feel welcome and respected for their inputs so that they're open to share their ideas with everyone in the team.
That's really great. And I really feel that respect is something that not a lot of people talk about when it comes to team building or to leadership for that matter. It's mostly empathy, it's understanding people, but at the same time, while you're empathizing with people, while you're understanding people, it's important to respect them as well. Leading from that, since now we're in the post-pandemic sort of situation wherein some companies have gone offline, some companies are choosing to work remotely for the foreseeable future. How do you feel COVID has impacted the way we function as a team? Because personally speaking, at least in Eden for that matter, I have personally been leading teams and working in a remote setting for the past 2 years. I feel that I've gotten more comfortable with this particular setting. But how do you feel with people that you've worked with? How has COVID impacted how they manage or build their team?
Well, the dynamics definitely changed for everyone, in 2020 with the pandemic coming in. Yes, with technology has aided us when it comes to working in a team. We have Zoom, we have Google Meet, other such platforms. You have breakout rooms where you can engage in team activities and consulting with one another and everything. But yes, that nothing can make up for that lack of human touch. I'll give you a small instance. There was somebody in my office when I was pre-pandemic, and he would just walk up to anyone anytime if he had any doubt. He would see us as colleagues, as friends. "Ke pooch liya," things like that. It was easy for him. Now in the pandemic, where we were not meeting, where we were not going to the regular office, he would be hesitant, on a Zoom meeting to ask, "Okay, Umika, what does this mean? I didn't get it. How do we do?" He would call me up separately once the meeting was over. "ये समझ में नहीं आया, कैसे, इसको करना है." So I think that's the one thing, that absence of a human touch has played its role in it. On the other hand, some people who I think were, so to speak, more comfortable, to interact from a distance, don't like to be part of a team, like to work on their own. Somewhere it's been easier for them because it's given them more independence. In spite of, I mean, they could have been part of a team, but they're, working with your laptop by yourself, in the comfort of a cafe or your home, there is independence. You don't have to constantly mingle with your peers and your team members in that sense. And finally, I think people who enjoyed strolling in their office compounds and going for that little smoke or something, they've missed out on that. But I think we've had to adapt to it, and that's what, life is about. Change is inevitable, and you have to accept that.
So there's this new buzzword in the corporate world now, which is hybrid working. What do you think is going to be the future of hybrid working going forward?
I think, I'd like to begin answering that by the fact that, education is what prepares us for life. Based on what we study in school and college, we end up choosing our professional career paths. We see a lot of young people today, very young people, sometimes from the remotest parts of the world, who have internet access now, learning from Coursera, from YouTube, from Harappa Education, all such different platforms, which I think is great. It's empowering people. And I think the debate nowadays is a lot that, okay, it's going to become a hybrid workspace post-pandemic. Companies are thinking, oh, why, if the productivity is similar, then why do we need to invest in a physical office space, with the infrastructure, lighting, air conditioning, all such things, when we can get the same work done with the employee sitting at home. Right now, honestly, I don't know what the future is with this. I think we are definitely headed towards a very heavily tech dependent world where perhaps we will really just need, a smartphone, to just get everything done, access to few applications, knowledge of even more sophisticated technologies to get things done. However, I do feel that, for a certain human connect, there should be the concept of, an office space where people go. And most importantly, the whole idea of waking up in the morning and dressing up and going to work, it's not just work. You are getting up, you are getting dressed, you have a shower, you put your makeup on for women, for men, you put your suits on, and that's work. It's so much beyond just sitting on the system. You crack jokes with your friends, you go to the canteen, you indulge in gossip maybe here and there, and there are so many moments which I don't think, at least right now in my experience, technology can replicate. So that's my view.
That's actually one of the current debates that I've also heard about when it comes to hybrid working is that um, there is going to be an inevitable bias that's going to come from team leaders towards people who are in the office as opposed to people who are out of the office. I absolutely agree with the fact that there is a certain level of professionalism that gets imbibed in you when you go to the office, and there's a certain level of routine that is built up in 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 that process of you getting ready, going to the office, and keeping that
Exactly.
cycle up. So, my next question related to this same aspect is that when people are in, let's say, remote or maybe not remote settings, or let's say they're transitioning out of the remote setting to the physical office setting, how do you think that team leaders can orient themselves to keep their teams motivated, keep their teams engaged, and adapt themselves to the new physical world that they're back in now from being remote for almost 2 years?
So you're referring to the pandemic situation and now
Yes, yeah.
going
Now
back to a
going
regular
back to
situation.
office, exactly.
Uh, the regular was the normal once, and then the pandemic became the normal, and now the regular is becoming a strange atmosphere for us all over again. I think even the fact that it's the regular office has begun for a lot of people. I think it's still like limited to a few days in a week only. It's not Monday to Friday. I think it's still limited to
For
a few
most
days
of the
in a week.
organizations, yes.
I think the process, I think the fact that they would be seeing one another in person, the colleagues, their leaders, bosses, everyone, I think that itself will help break much of the lack of contact, the lack of physical contact that they experienced in the past 2 years. Because, of course, you can crack a joke, even on, on your through mails, and you can share laughter, on Zoom and everything. But a physical meeting is a physical meeting. You know, like WhatsApp, hi, that warm, firm handshake. You see them after so long. So I think that itself, the fact that they see one another in person and meet in person, will itself help break, a lot of the disconnect that may have taken place in the 2 years. And yes, it will take a little time for each and every member to reach their own, depending upon how they get used to the environment again. Uh, Normalcy 2.0. But I think, yeah, it's gonna take some time, but then things will be normal. Let's hope they become normal. There's no fourth, fifth, sixth wave. Let's really hope that.
Well, I think the way that's going to happen is mostly going to be through communication, through that feedback coming from employees and that back and forth happening. Feedback makes me think about asking you the next question, which is, what do you think is constructive criticism or constructive feedback? Because the word gets thrown around a lot, but very few people actually understand how to, first of all, what it means and how to give it to people. So, when it comes to constructive feedback, constructive criticism, how do you think a team leader or maybe team members for that matter can give that out in the most effective manner possible?
See, I think a lot of people say that, whenever we are given any kind of feedback from anyone, be it even in school or even by our parents on a few things, it's people say, oh, take it constructively, don't take it too hard, things like that. It depends completely on the person giving the feedback to make it sound constructive. And of course, I feel a team leader ought to know how to give a constructive feedback, and so do team members today. Um, you can't bring someone down, you can't run somebody down, you can't be disrespectful, have personal attacks. And, all right, all of this is the verbal part of it, what you say. I think with your body language, with your hand gestures, your expressions, your tone, your pitch, everything plays, a huge part. In fact, science says that the least amount, which is just 7%, that is the weightage of the words you say in any communication. The highest goes to your body language, and then it's your tone, pitch, the paralinguistics.
Non-verbal, yeah.
So I think, one has to be very, very wary of that when you're giving feedback. Make it sound like you're genuinely interested in your peers, or in your subordinates' development. Not for something that gives you like an ego boost, that you run someone down, by making it sound disrespectful. And for the person on the receiving end of the feedback, I would say acknowledge the feedback, seek clarity if you feel that something was mentioned which you were not aware of, you're not clear about. Seek clarity for that. Ask questions, don't jump to conclusions, extremely important. And the most important part, because the feedback is regarding the person and you are the one listening to it, and you have to apply it, you're expected to apply it. Once the feedback is done, take some time out, and quietly with a cool head reflect on what was said. And whatever your questions are, your doubts are, your learnings are, you can take it forward from there. So very important, I'll paraphrase it for the person to know how to give feedback. It should be constructive, it should be polite, it should be respectful, and genuinely intending for the person's development. And for the person getting it, do not jump to conclusions. Just try and get the best out of it, and think with a cool mind before you try and retaliate in any manner, which wouldn't really be conducive to you or the other party.
Absolutely. I actually feel like that toolkit is very important for people to know and understand how this needs to be done, because from a very young age, like you said, right, even in school, we're taught that, oh, give constructive criticism, but not a lot of people really understand how to give it. Now, one might think constructive criticism is okay. Let's say somebody's presenting something and they say X, Y, and Z, and somebody comes up and says, oh, you did this wrong in X, this wrong in Y, and this wrong in Z. But they say it in a manner which is very derogatory. The whole point of the constructive criticism goes to goes down the drain. So thank you so much for that. Now, another question that gets related to this, which I also mentioned a little bit previously, is how can team leaders deal with their biases? Now, there are, of course, based on criteria and conditions which are set up in the workplace, there are some people who are going to perform better. There's some people who are not going to perform as that great. And team leaders, being human beings, they're going to tend to have a bias towards people who perform better. So, how can team leaders actually detach themselves a little bit from this bias and try to work upon building themselves or orienting themselves to help the people who are not performing that great in the workplace?
Well, honestly, I don't think it's about detaching yourself from it, because it's very human. Like teachers have their favorite student, So of course, then that goes on a different trail where they completely start favoring them. Similarly, the situation would be in an office scenario with the team leader favoring someone who's that top performer and things like that. That will be there. That will always be there. There will be a top performer, and there will be somebody who will be at the bottom of the list. And the leader would obviously feel great pride in the member of his team who's doing so well. I think in this scenario, it's important for the leader to know why exactly is it that a certain member is performing in a certain way. I'm not just saying for the person who's doing great and for the person who's at the bottom of the list, for everybody. Who is doing how well, where are they lacking, where are they great, why is it that they are great, why is it they are lacking? And, I think that will give them clarity for each and every team member to, be honest with their work and be honest with their performance. He would know, all right, okay, a certain guy named Shubham. He's a tech guy. He's not great with communication, with perhaps writing proposals or other things like that. Fine, you need to recognize where that person is good at. Everyone's gifted in some way or the other. And everyone's contributing their own different piece of input to the team, to the work that they're doing. So the leader's job is certainly to recognize that and make best use of the potential of each and every member. Having said that, if he does feel that a certain member has the potential and is not performing up to the mark, then yes, have a chat one-to-one, know what's going on. Maybe there are personal reasons. Maybe there are issues with certain colleagues. Maybe there's something else. So it's always better to, reach out and know what the cause is and work together towards rectifying it.
I think that's something that is really important because, especially in the corporate world, what happens is you're not performing that great. Your manager won't speak to you; the HR would, and that
Exactly.
perspective needs to change from managers actually understanding. Okay, I'm working with this person 5 days in a week or 6 days in a week for
Yeah,
nine
I have
hours
a
a
better
day.
understanding.
Precisely. So taking that little extra effort to understand what is it that they're facing a problem with and working on fixing that is the way that you actually become an effective leader and have an effective team. So just to
Yeah, that's what separates good leaders from great ones.
precisely, precisely. So just to sum up all that we've discussed over here today, we've been talking about creating and managing effective teams. My final question to you would be that um, do you feel there can be a one size fits all toolkit or let's say a format that can be followed by leaders across the globe who are managing different sizes of teams, different backgrounds of teams, and so on and so forth? Or do you feel that just merely having the initiative to understand your team is enough to build effective teams across the board?
Uh, Arnav, whether you're um, whether you're the captain of perhaps your school team or you're the head of an MNC, I think one rule to leadership is very central. That is, each and every member must feel valued. And each and every member must feel that their contribution is worthy and is helping the team achieve the goal. So I think every member has to feel a connect with the firm, has to feel a connect with the task, has to feel a connect with the company. That's very important. There is no one size fits all, but yes, there is also, it is also there in a certain way that uh, like I mentioned even previously, in our chat, that worthiness, dignity, respect, making people feel valued, knowing their concerns, knowing their wants, how they would want to be, perhaps, they need some sort of help in something, perhaps they want some things changed. Sometimes, employees want policies changed or the way something works in a firm, that needs to change. Maybe they need, the number of holidays you have or you're allowed in a month, in a year needs to change. Better pay, or there could be several reasons. I think it's just important to know, the nerve of your employees, because only when they are happy can your company prosper. They are the face of your company to the customers. So it's very important that they feel valued, and only when they feel that, okay, this brand or this company is my company, this is what I work for. There's a sense of pride in the work that they are doing, and they associate that pride with the firm, with the brand that they're working for. I think only then will the term teamwork, really have any value, and will it really be worth investing and working in a team. Otherwise, you can be a dictator and manage sitting on Zoom.
That's really good. Well, that was all that we had from our side. Umika, thank you so much for giving such valuable insights to people on how to actually build teams in pre-pandemic, post-pandemic, actually going through the process and understanding what team leaders can do to build and manage effective teams. That being said, again, I'd like to thank you once again for taking out time to do this session with us. And yeah, I hope everybody enjoyed listening to you just the same way that I did.
Thank you so much. It's really been a pleasure. And I thoroughly enjoyed sharing all my insights that I had with you. And I hope that people can draw something from all that we shared and apply in their own learnings, in their own lives and skills. Thank you so much.